Hey everyone, and welcome as we continue our study through the New Testament. And today we are going to finish up Colossians. We're going to be in Colossians 4, verses 7 through 18. And basically, this is Paul's final instructions and some greetings and kind of call outs to people who are helping him or who he wants to say hi to or give some instructions to. So we'll read through this real quick and then go through the notes. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to try my best with these names. I'm horrible with names. I try to learn them, but for some reason, my mind can't wrap around them. So we'll do our best. Tychicus will give you a full report about how I'm getting along. He is a beloved brother and faithful helper who serves me in the Lord's work. I have sent him to you for this very purpose, to let you know how we are doing and to encourage you. I am also sending Onesimus, a faithful and beloved brother, one of your own people. He and Tychicus will tell you everything that happened here, or that is happening here. Aristarchus, who is in prison with me, sends you his greetings, and so does Mark, Barnabas' cousin. As you were instructed before, make Mark welcome if he comes your way. Jesus, the one they call Justice, also sends his greetings. These are only the only these are the only Jewish believers among my coworkers. They are working with me here for the kingdom of God, and what a comfort they have been. Epaphras, a member of your own fellowship and a servant of Jesus Christ, sends you his greetings. He also prays earnestly for you, asking God to make you strong and perfect, fully confident that you are following the whole will of God. I can assure you that he prays hard for you and also for the believers in Laodicea and Hierapolis. Luke, the beloved doctor, sends his greetings, and so does Demas. Please give my greetings to our brothers and sisters at Laodicea and to Nympha at the church that meets in her house. After you have read this letter, pass it on to the church at Laodicea so they can read it too. And you should read the letter I wrote to them. And say to Archippus, be sure to carry out the ministry the Lord gave you. Here is my greeting in my own handwriting. Paul, remember my chains. May God's grace be with you. And so most of his New Testament letters, most of Paul's New Testament letters end with a series of greetings and references to coworkers and travel plans. But this part of Colossians is longer than most of them. And there's probably more than likely it's because since he's unable to travel, um, he might have been seeking to ensure that like the Colossians maintain connections to his coworkers and just he had a full list because it may have been a while before he was going to be released, and this would help them not fall for the teachings and stuff of some of the false teachers that he was writing about in this. And so Tychicus was from the province of Asia, right, where Colossus was located. He worked with Paul, especially in that province, in that area. He was later sent to work with Titus in Crete. We'll see that in Titus 3 when we get to that. He probably carried this letter along with the letters known as Ephesians and Philemon as well. So he probably carried the three letters. Onesimus, who we've already talked about, right? And when we went through Philemon, was the runaway slave from whom Paul was sending back to his master Philemon. And so we went through that and saw that when we went through that letter. Of the six people named, five of them are actually mentioned in Philemon's chapter 23 and 24, verses 23 and 24, not chapters. Aristarchus was a common name, if you say so, but he was probably the same man from Thessalonica that we saw in Acts, and he accompanied Paul on his voyage to Rome. Acts does not suggest that Aristarchus was under house arrest as well, or under arrest as well. So there's a possibility he was in prison with Paul voluntarily, just helping, serving him, sharing in his confinement in order to encourage him and assist him in his ministry. We don't know, but that's just an assumption because Acts doesn't mention that he was arrested too, but he could have been. It wasn't recorded. Mark was Barnabas' cousin. If you remember him when we first started our study in Acts, we ran across Mark. He had gone with Barnabas and Paul on their first missionary journey, but had left them before the journey was finished. He did, for whatever reason, he didn't commit to going all the way through, and so that desertion led to a split between Paul and Barnabas on the second missionary journey. And so we if you remember, we studied about that. There was a split. It looks like by this point, however, Paul and Mark have reconciled, and we're going to see that also in 2 Timothy 4. Where he mentions mentions Mark as well. Jesus, the one they call Justus, is mentioned only here in the New Testament. The surname Justus is included because Jesus, which means the Lord's, sorry, which means the Lord saves. That was a common name among the Jews in the first century. So, but that's all we know about that. Then we see Luke, right? He mentions Luke, the beloved doctor. And so it is well known that Luke was the author of Acts and the book of Luke and the gospel bearing his name. So this verse is the sole evidence that we have of two facts about Luke. One, that he was a doctor, and two, that he was not a Jewish believer. And so we see that when it's mentioned. And so, in contrast to the other people mentioned in this passage, no details are given about Demas. All we know is that we know about him as Demas later deserts Paul. That's the one thing we know. And he says here, you should read the letter that I wrote him, talking about the letter to Laodicea. And so here's the thing: various attempts have been made over the years to identify the letter to Laodicea, but we have not been able to find it. And so most likely Paul's letter to the Laodicean church has been lost. So we don't know what it is. Scholars are still looking for it. It'd be cool if we found it. I'm not sure what would be in it. Probably something very similar to what we see with these other ones. And so that's probably why, for whatever reason, God didn't make sure that one was preserved. But I don't know. Maybe one day it'll show up. It'd be kind of cool. But to this point, the church to the Laodicean, the letter to the Laodicean church has never been found. And then finally, like he does in a lot of his letters, he says, "Here's my greeting in my own hand, Paul." And so, like many of them, he had a scribe probably write it for him as he dictated, and so he would always finish them off with his own letter, and that was a way to authenticate the letters. And he would put his own handwriting on them. So, as always, I hope everyone is learning from these as we continue on. We will continue next week. And just following along. We're doing the biblical study in chronological order. So again, I hope you're learning from these. I hope that the dive into it every single day is helpful. And as always, I encourage you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't got a chance to do that. That way you can continue to follow along with us. You get the alerts when we publish these videos. We publish them every morning and do our best to send them out every morning. But as always, appreciate everyone who takes time to watch, and I hope y'all have a wonderful day.